This is the Everyday Hustle Show, where our number one priority is self-development.
Each week, we will dive into insightful topics that encourage you to push your thinking beyond average.
Smash that subscribe button and tune in every Sunday at 6 p.m. Welcome everyone to the 57th recorded episode of the Everyday Hustle Show, coming to you pre-recorded from Lake Worth, Florida. We have a very, very special guest tonight. But before we get into that, Chris, what's going on with you, my brother? How you feeling tonight?
Feeling great, man. Had another good week at work. Actually, Friday kind of sucked, but overall was a great week. And trucking along, man. Feeling good. Okay.
How's the engaged life?
Good. We're waiting for for some response from a place that we really love. So hopefully we can get that. Michelle, if you're listening, please call us back. We've been trying to reach you for like all week.
Are you serious? Who does Michelle work for? What venue? It's a venue?
What is it? Old School Square.
It's a venue?
Yeah.
Y'all are moving fast.
We're
She's trying to tie that knot.
We're trying. Well, the plan is for a year out, so we're just trying to get like the venue, because we know the venue is going to be like, once we get that, then we can start working kind of around and like looking for food spots around that area and flowers and
right on.
So we know, and we love the place, so we're like, Michelle, please call us back.
Right on. Michelle from Old School Square. You can reach Christian at Barraza Chris 15_ at yahoo.com.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And then we got Ryan. Ryan's in town from New York. Good friend of ours. I'll get into the intro and the bio and all that stuff in a little bit. But I had wanted to get him on the show for some time. Reached out and he said, yeah, I'll do it over Skype, but I'm actually going to be in town in a few weeks. So I said, well, dude, let's get the energy going. So Ryan, how you feeling tonight, my brother?
I'm feeling good. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said, I'm going to get into a little bit of your background and all that stuff. But before we start the show, because I feel like this is so important for people to realize and understand, is that you said that you actually listen to the podcast. I know that you kind of followed our journey, from the beginning, and that you listen to it in your weekly life or whatever. You have a routine and you actually listen to it on the regular. So, I just want to know, like, why do you do that, and what has it done for you, or how can you maybe say, or like, how could it benefit someone else maybe?
That's a good question. Well, mainly it started out because I got to support the homies.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, but I was really proud when you guys started, because I've always been into podcasts and listening to podcasts, especially like the type of podcast where, it has a message. It's not just, people sitting around bullshitting, which 90% of the podcast end up being. But, the message I get out of it is that you got to keep fighting no matter what. You keep pushing to make yourself better, not just sitting in one spot. Got to move forward and keep moving. So, like, I feel like that's the type of message that it can give somebody that might be stuck, contemplating whether they should go in one direction or the other. You had some really good guys on that give different views. So I really appreciate that side of it. That's why I recommend it to people. And then the chemistry that you guys have. It just sounds like, it doesn't sound like forced.
Right. And when we did our 1 year anniversary, we actually went back as an exercise and listened to the first, I did the first 3, but the assignment, I guess, if you want to say, was to listen to the second and the third episode, which was Matt and Dennis. We go through, we write down some key points that we hit on, and we basically resurface some questions and some things that we talked about. And listening to that, and then listening to newer episodes, because I don't know why, I listen to every episode. You know what I'm saying? I study my shit,
Yeah,
so
of course.
I have time in the car. People are fucking lame if they say they don't have time to implement something like this into their life. It's just, you're just lazy. I listen to there's like 3 or 4 podcasts that I listen to on the regular.
Yeah.
And then I always listen to ours just to critique myself,
Yeah.
you know, and just see how I can improve. And those first 2 or 3 episodes, to me, they felt forced.
Yeah.
They felt a little forced because we were brand new.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, we've only been at it a year, so you could still kind of say that we're kind of new in it, but it was very rigid. It felt very rigid,
Yeah.
and listening to the episodes back, you know, I can kind of feel the rigidness of it. So to hear you say that it sounds a little more natural now, means that exactly what you just said, we're moving forward. You know, we're finding ways to move forward, which is awesome. So for everyone out there who you know, may or may not know Ryan, Ryan was born and raised in a small town in the Poconos, Pennsylvania. That's Pennsylvania, if you don't know.
Yes.
All right, Ryan comes from a small family that just consisted of his sister and his mom, who worked 3 jobs to provide for them. With his mother never remarrying, Ryan looked at all the wrong people for male role models and led a life of bad decisions into his early 20s. I can identify. My brother.
Preach.
So he managed to get into IT and have some success, but lacked motivation. Ryan then moved to Florida at 25 to find a new way of life. He changed careers to follow a path of passion without financial obsession. We're going to talk about that.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Father of 4, married 5 years, and recently celebrated 10 years clean.
Whew, that's what I'm talking about.
Ryan recently graduated with honors, a bachelor's in science of nursing, while working full-time and doing jobs on the side. He's preparing now to take the licensing exam for his RN and working his way into emergency medicine. So, wow, I'm fired up, dude.
Yeah, that got me fired up.
So end game with the RN is emergency medicine would be emergency room nurse, or is that something different?
That's the foreseeable future.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. I remember when you years and years ago you were in paramedic school, right?
Yeah.
And they all kind of intertwine, and
Right. That's kind of like pushed me towards emergency room nursing. Yeah.
that's the end. I mean, we need to rewind this tape back all the way back to the beginning. Okay, so the first thing, I don't know about you, Christian, but so like I love the bios, and Christian asked me about the bio. He's like, dude, did you just tell Ryan to like tell you about his life? I said, yeah, dude. I said he needs to tell me what he's proud of, himself. And Ryan said, just for everyone who's listening, I never did a bio. It's like, now you did a bio.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You said it out loud, and I'm sure like, me reading it and you hearing it, it's probably one of those things where it's like, damn, like that's a lot of shit that you did.
Right.
You know?
I guess so.
That's a lot of shit, man. You know, those are heavy accomplishments. You know,
And it's funny that you say that because, like, when I look at it,
it's just like nothing,
I'm
dude.
like,
It's
I
like,
mean,
yeah,
average Joe should be able to do this.
right.
Yeah.
But
But
not true.
No, it was hard.
Not
Yeah.
true. So I want to talk about a few things that jumped out to me, Christian. If you want to chime in, or if you have anything that you wanted to ask Ryan.
You already know where I'm going, so I'll wait a little bit.
Okay, so the first thing, obviously, I have similarities in my past, with your family and all that stuff. I don't, I feel like everyone kind of has that family drama stuff,
Right.
But I don't want to harp on that too much. I don't think.
Well, I mean, it's easy. I think it's easy for us to think that a lot of people come from broken families.
Yeah.
But really, when you think about it, it's not a huge percentage. So right off the bat, we're starting with a few cards missing from the deck.
Yeah.
Definitely plays a role.
And I think that played a huge part in who I am today. So I think it helps me understand different types of struggles a little better.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Managed to get into IT and had some success, but lacked motivation. Immediately jumped out at me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I know where we were at that point in time. I was alongside you while you were going through that journey. A very strange time. But why do you think that you lacked motivation at that point in your life? Do you think it was because you weren't passionate about what you were doing, or just where you were at relationship-wise with other people? Why? Because you specifically put lacked motivation in that sentence. So why was that?
That lack of motivation came along a long time before that certain situation that you are speaking of. You know, because like even before I got into recovery, I was in a good spot with my IT knowledge, placement, you know, but I just didn't have the motivation to push forward, you know. Any part of that I was in my life, I never really had that ability to kind of step on other people or, you know, push someone out of the way to get that promotion or, you know, I didn't have that fight when it came to something like that. You know, I have a passion when it comes to IT and, you know, electronics and stuff like that because I got into electronics repair early on. When I was living in Pennsylvania, I was working at a company in New Jersey for a credit card processing company, and that's really where it all started. But I just didn't have that motivation to push forward and to like make myself into something. I never had that entrepreneur mindset.
Do you think it was like a lack of confidence, or was it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a big lack of confidence. There's also just a complete lack of, you know, motivation. You know, I had no motivation at the time. I didn't want to be somebody special because I was so used to failure.
Yeah.
You know, so there's always that fear of accomplishment. And that was a big part of my life. I didn't want anything to do with accomplishment because, you know, I never thought I could ever attain it. So why try to set myself up for disappointment, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing too, is like the whole confidence issue. And that's something that, like, at least for myself now, it's like everything for me. And I mean, obviously I'm not perfect. I still struggle, you know, with my insecurities, but
No, absolutely.
the difference between me showing up to a job site, like, with confidence and without is so different. Because when I go, you know, with like, and I'll literally, like, when I'm driving, I'm like, I'll literally like pump myself up. I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be here. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And even though like I just went on a service call last week. It took me 3 hours to figure it out. You know, I called a bunch of people. I ended up getting to the bottom of it, but it probably could have taken me an hour. Now, granted, I don't do it, you know, every single day. You know, it's not, you know, there's a bunch of reasons that are legitimately not like excuses that are legit. But the reality is that instead of me, you know, driving and being like, fuck, like, damn, I don't know why they sent me this service call. They know I'm not that good at this, like, yada, 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 which, you know, initially that is what happens. But I just know that, like, for myself, I just know how important confidence is. And I know that, like, it's not necessarily motivation. It's just like, dude, like, if you want to progress, if you want to, you know, get to a different level, you got to start thinking differently,
right,
and start like believing that you're supposed to be here. And that is so huge for me,
right,
like just with everything that I do. And it's been a big change in like the way I think.
Yeah, I think, and what it came down to with me is like my main passion for like, I wanted to fix things and I wanted to help people. And I think that comes from some deep rooted stuff. You know, the more I did work as I worked on my own recovery, and I felt like pushing forward where in the career that I was in, I wasn't helping as much as I was helping myself. You know what I mean? And it didn't make me feel good inside, you know? 'Cause coming from like where I came from, you know, and what I mean about, you know, without financial obsession is 'cause like I've never been money motivated. You know, I've always been like doing odd jobs. Like I'd get into these sales jobs. Like one time I tried to sell Cutco knives.
Oh,
you know, and I was horrible at it.
Yeah.
You know, I was so bad, and I knew at that point that there's no way I could do anything related to sales, even though I tried many, many times after that. But I knew I couldn't do it just because I couldn't try to get over on somebody. Getting over on somebody never felt good to me.
Yeah.
You know. And it wasn't a feeling that I liked.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah. So I never felt like I was actually helping people. And then it came to a head. Probably like 5 years now, and it came to a head, and I was just like, I'm not helping anybody. You know, I'm not fixing anything. I wasn't fixing anything, You know, there was more problems being created on a regular basis, and I just didn't feel comfortable. And I was already at that point pursuing a career in EMS. You know, I was actually in school for nursing at the time of my last like real IT job. And that's where I really feel a lot of passion now. I feel happy, feel good.
Right. I love that. And you'll still be helping people, but in a way that is, you know, much
Life-saving.
different.
Yeah.
Than, you know, like IT is still, you know, helping people, and there, you know, that's a service that is always going to be necessary, but you're bringing another set of skills to the table and a whole other set of, you know, value and principles and all that stuff when you work in medicine. I feel like it's weird. Sometimes when I like go into the hospital or like, you know, I'm around people who are in the medical profession, I feel like they are like the pinnacle of human beings. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Like they studied harder,
Yeah.
they worked longer, and that's just how I think. I mean, I don't know if that's the truth or not.
No,
if
it's
that's-
absolutely the truth.
Ryan's like, I'm the shit.
No, it is tough.
No, but like if you look at a doctor,
yeah,
you know, just like how they carry themselves, you know, and it's just, to me, it's just they're fuck top of the chain, you know.
Top of the
I don't
chain.
know.
Yeah.
It's just how
Saving
I.
lives.
It's how I
yeah. When
see
I'm
it.
watching doctors in the emergency room, like they'll have 17 patients,
Yeah.
you know, in a busy ER.
Yeah.
They'll have 17 patients that they got to write orders for, and they got to make sure that they're doing okay. And a nurse may have 10 of those patients, may
Right.
have 7 of those patients, and they got to work with 2 or 3 different nurses to
Yeah.
try to, you know, make sure that everything is going okay and nobody dies.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, nobody decompensates.
Yeah, and the nurses are always the one who are doing the majority of the work.
Oh yeah.
Well, like actually treating the
Right.
the
Yeah.
patient.
Yeah. The doctor will come in for like 5 minutes, but the
Right.
doctor's writing the orders and
Yeah.
making sure everything's
Yeah.
going all right. But a lot of the times the nurses got to call the doctor out and be like, listen, this is not going to work. We got to do something different.
Right.
Checks and balances.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. You know, when we were in the hospital when the baby was born, nurses in there constantly. Doctor was in there, you know, 30 seconds in a clip until the baby was actually coming.
Right.
So we were in the hospital for, you know, probably 3 or 4 days in total, and maybe was interacting with the doctor for, you know, 2 hours out of the 4 days.
Yeah.
So, crazy. But that's awesome, man. I'm like, I can't wait for you to get to the point where you're in the ER, fucking blood squirting on you. You're saying, "Doc, we need a 10 gauge or something." What did I say?
So what did I say?
Clear.
Yeah, Kelly's actually studying to be an RN right now too.
Oh, nice.
But she's like on some crazy shit. She's like, she wants to be like in the helicopters.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
A flight nurse.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
gotta have her talk to you then when you like get to that point.
Mhm.
Because she just started, so it's gonna be 2 years before she graduates. But
Yeah.
by that time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, having an EMS background is really important when it comes to that, and that's what kind of like. I remember when I was doing my EMT schooling, and like I was in the hospital doing a clinical rotation in Delray Medical Center, and they had just flown in a patient from a car accident, and the flight nurse came in. And he's this big guy, and I was just like, I was in awe, you know.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow. Like that's the pinnacle. Like,
Yeah.
you got your flight jumpsuit on.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're the reason that this patient is probably going to survive because you got there fast and you held them stable throughout that flight and you got them to the hospital on time. You know what I mean? And like that is like where it's at.
So so once you graduate, then you like, is there a certain, do you already know like the road to get to that spot or?
Yeah, I mean, basically, where I'm at right now in New York, what they want is they want you to have like some type of EMS background,
Yeah.
EMT,
So like some
paramedic.
history or something.
Yeah, and then they also want you to have some type of critical care or acute care
Oh, okay.
experience.
To make sure you're okay with like,
Well, yeah, of course.
yeah.
And to get into the emergency room, either you got to go through like a residency program, they call them fellowships,
Okay.
up in New York, or come from like a critical care type of nursing role. like either in an ICU or some type of cardiac care or step down, something like that.
And do you know how long it's going to take? Like how long you have to do the residency or whatever before they'll even like? let
Well,
you
the
apply?
fellowship that I'm up for is it's 1 year.
Okay.
So the first 16 weeks is like classroom, and so it's like more school.
Yeah.
Basically, you're learning critical care, acute care, how to care for the severely ill patient that is like on the verge.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's intense.
Yeah.
I did 200 hours in an emergency room that I was just in love. You know?
Yeah.
It was, to be there for a patient in that moment of their life, I don't want to say they're more grateful than someone that's been in the hospital for like 10 days, but
Right.
like
Yeah.
they tend to be,
Yeah.
they tend to be. And the family is just like, everybody's real worried, and, and to know that you are doing everything right to get them to be okay, or to get them stable, it's a great feeling.
See, I feel like I'd be too emotional for that. Like when I'm just thinking about it, like the mom and stuff, I'm like already like
You're
getting
tearing up?
I'm getting choked up.
You're tearing
over
up?
here. Yeah, man.
it's tough. It is not easy.
And you're not supposed to be like emotional, right? Like you're kind of supposed to be kind of like they expect you to be.
No, well, you don't want to break down and cry in
Right.
front of the patients.
You watch Grey's Anatomy, dude?
No.
You got to watch Grey's Anatomy, bro.
Well, those are surgeons. So
all
that
these
doesn't matter.
all
That doesn't
these
count.
Yeah,
questions will
I-
be answered.
I feel like I'd be crying, dude. I would be like, dude, I can't. Look at this lady. She heard the mom's crying. I'd be like,
It is
cheering
tough.
up.
Yeah, you got to walk away in certain situations
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Even when I was in the field, it's not easy situations. But yeah, you do have to kind of hold
Step
it
away,
together.
yeah.
You got to pull it together because somebody's got to.
Right. Yeah, you got. They want to have faith in you.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Yeah.
All right, so tell me about why did you write the sentence without financial obsession? And I know you kind of already hit on it, but I want to like talk about it a little bit more. Why do you feel that that's important? And because I feel like so many people are driven by money, know,
Right.
and it's something that I've been battling with myself for the
Right.
past few years, and I've gotten in some trouble because of it,
Right.
and I don't know. I just want to know what you were thinking when you wrote that, and how you kind of switched that mind, from not maybe you were financially obsessed, maybe you weren't, but to consciously deciding I want to live my life not obsessed with money.
Well, I don't want to make it sound like that. Like I want to donate everything that I have. I want to be able to pay my bills, obviously. But what it comes down to is that like I'm not willing to sacrifice the stuff that I'm passionate about in order to achieve wealth.
Yeah.
Right.
Because to me, financial wealth is one thing, but to have some type of moral wealth or some, well-being wealth, or however you want to say it, I think is more important, to be happy with what you're doing and to where you're at, and I know there's people that are very happy making tons of money and doing certain things to get that money. But like for me, I feel like I get more out of helping people, because I've had several opportunities in order to make a lot of money, and I just don't feel like I'm willing to put in that type of effort,
Yeah.
if you want to say, to achieve more wealth than I need.
Yeah.
Because I know how to make enough to survive, and I feel like that's okay. Of course I want to be comfortable, but when it comes down to it, I don't want to obsess over it, because I have to obsess over other things, especially with the kids, the house, and we have 2 dogs. I have more to obsess over. I want to be about them, about that stuff. So I do enough to be able. I want to do enough to obviously be comfortable, right? But I don't think I need all those like fancy things.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course I like some fancy things. I like to collect some shoes here and there. My
Yeah.
I
wife,
see you with the fresh kicks on.
My wife doesn't want to hear that.
I see you with the fresh kicks on.
But yeah, I feel like if I obsess over money, because I used to, I used to
Yeah.
obsess, and that was before recovery. Because when I was, I think 21, I was making over almost 90,000 a year, and for someone that's 21, and this was like 15 years ago, 16 years ago,
It's a lot of cheese.
yeah,
It's a lot of scratch.
There's a lot of
yeah,
cheddar.
at that time, that was a lot of money, and
Shit, that's still a lot of money for me. Goddamn, that sounds.
but
good.
also I feel like I missed out on a lot of stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Because I was trying to push to make more and more and more.
Yeah.
But then there's also like the satisfaction that comes along with achieving different goals and stuff. But I never was goal oriented. It was just like more money, more money, more money, more money. So nowadays it's not all about I need to make this to get this to get this to get this. It's just like how I'm more interested in the knowledge to attain more knowledge, and to just be there to help people, really. Because like my main goal with the medical stuff is to get to a point where I'm more of a leader, like trying to, I don't want to say an educator because I haven't really gotten there.
Not
I don't,
there
I don't,
yet.
I don't think I would want to be a professor or anything like that.
Yeah.
But also I would want to be able to mentor people coming
Yeah.
into the profession.
Maybe a podcast.
Yeah, maybe a podcast. I doubt it though.
Cool.
I'm a listener.
Yeah. I feel you.
So do you think I think it's very interesting how that all played out, but I also think that you needed money to get to that point, if that makes sense.
Well, of course. You need money to do things. Of
Yeah.
course. You need money to do things. You need money to go to school.
Yeah.
You know.
I know exactly, what you're talking about in that aspect, because like money doesn't, it's not always in the forefront of my mind anymore.
Right.
But it's like one of those things where I don't really like stress about it as much as I used to. Like, but it took me years to get to the point where I had a little bit of, knowledge and, I guess maybe just money saved up
Cheddar.
to get to the point where like I was like, oh, I got this fucking bill. Like, I don't fucking care,
Right.
Yeah.
Pay it. I'm worrying about other shit,
Right.
But at the same token, now it's like with the baby being born
Yeah.
and Jen being out of work and the money's, and it's going out. A lot of it's going out,
Right.
and not a lot's coming in. And I kind of like the pressure. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I like the pressure. I think that it makes you perform and work differently.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's like I'm not trying to work and make money to have a fucking boat.
Right.
I'm trying to like work and make money to like make sure my family is comfortable and to make sure that I maybe have something to pass down to someone or whatever it might be. Like, I think that I have everything that I need right now, basically.
Yeah. Well, and it's one thing that I always say is like, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
I always have that positive feeling, that optimistic thought that no matter what, we're going to figure it out. We're going to get it to work. We're going to be okay. You know what I mean? Because like in the end, that's really what it's all about. It's like, it's not going to all go away.
Right.
Someone's not going to come and just take everything you have. Yeah, you might have to give up some stuff, but like, that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
I grew up with almost nothing. So I'm used to that. Yeah, it's nice to have nice things and a big house and nice cars and all that stuff. But in the end, that's all you got.
Yeah.
So when I talk about, when I said that without financial obsession, it's not that I don't want to make money. Of course I want to make money, but I don't want to have to obsess over it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that to be the driving
Right.
factor.
Right.
What I'm more interested in is my family, my kids.
And do you think that's what kind of led you to meditation, or when did you start meditating?
Well, meditating came in recovery.
Okay.
Yeah. I never even thought about meditation until recovery.
Okay.
And that's been a very big part of keeping cool in certain situations, I feel.
Do you have like a strategy or like a routine?
No, I don't get like crazy with it and play like music and sit with candles lit and you know, some oils burning or whatever.
Right.
No, I just sit in silence really. You know, I have a little app on my phone that'll ding after 5 minutes, and then I can. So like basically what I do is I sit and I work on quieting my mind, let it go for 5 minutes, and once the ding hits, then I try to just push all thoughts out.
Ah, okay.
And just try to sit there. What really helps is like a lot of meditation meetings that I've gone to and meditation groups over the years. And what someone said to me once was, the thoughts are going to come. So the best thing to do is with your eyes closed, you imagine that thought as an object and you just watch it go by like a train. So you just see that thought. There's that thought. Just let it keep going. So it just goes by. And then you can slowly, as you do that, the thoughts come slower and slower, and you can quiet your mind a little bit, and you can just kind of get to a different area, which it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to do, especially when there's tons of stuff going on.
Yeah, you got a lot of shit going on. Yeah.
Kids, school recently. School's been insane, you know. Happy that's over. Holy hell. That was rough.
How's your meditating going, Chris?
It's good, actually. Yeah, I have. So I actually just created a schedule for everything, just to, and I'm not like super crazy about it. I'm not like, you know, mandatory everything, but just something to where I'm like, I'll look at it and I kind of just have an idea of what I want to do at, you know, certain times of the day. And so, yeah, meditation has been really good in the sense of like you said, just being able to quiet everything down. And like when there's, even when I'm like, you know, so now when something happens, like what I said about going to work, and I'm like kind of starting to get nervous, and I consciously am like, okay, I'm nervous, like, and then I kind of give myself a pep talk, like, no, I'm supposed to be here. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. If I want to get better, I need to practice it. So I'm just practicing right now.
Absolutely.
So it kind of takes like the pressure off, and I think meditating helps me to, in moments like that, to kind of be able to just kind of not get overwhelmed. So it's been awesome.
Right on. Can't say that I've done any meditating recently or have any intention to.
No, it's not easy when you have a newborn.
I'm sure like gym and stuff is kind of similar, or running, just anything to kind of get your mind not going crazy.
Yeah. I definitely want to make a better what's the word? I want to like try to do it more, you know. Okay, so Pennsylvania to Florida to New York, a few different moves that you made physically in living space. I just want you to kind of tell me, you know, what your experience has been like, because I guess maybe just from Florida to New York is more what I want to talk to you about, because I'm sure there might be someone out there who's thinking about making a move, or someone who's like, oh man, I got a job opportunity in another state, or maybe, you know, they just have the opportunity to change, you know, where they live, or this, you know, the scenery, and change is good. You know, it's the only constant in life. But tell me a little bit about your experience with that, you know, good, bad, indifferent, you know, whatever it might be.
I don't know if I'm the right person to answer that question. No, but yeah, so 3 years ago, after living in Florida for 7 years, recovery, building a foundation, an amazing support group, lots of unbelievable friends. The list is like huge, the amount of friends that we have. I mean, you've been to the barbecues.
Yeah.
So it's been incredibly challenging. You know, when even today when I talk to people up in New York, I'm like, well, I just moved here, but really it was 3 years ago that I moved there. You know,
it feels like you just moved.
Yeah,
still
it still feels like I just moved. Yeah. So for me, it's been challenging. Right. I've never lived in that area of New York, so it's a cultural shock, I guess you could call it. For me, it might have been slightly easier. Mainly, you know, my wife, because we're surrounded by her family up there. They live in all sporadic areas within like a 10-minute drive.
That's cool.
Right.
You know, which, you know, they're welcoming and nice, and she has a big family, so everybody's really like, come on over, you know, let's do dinner once a week, stuff like that, you know. And then my mom still lives in Pennsylvania, so
which is how far from where you're at now?
It's a 3-hour drive.
Okay. So not terrible.
No, and
but it's like a day thing or a weekend thing?
It's definitely a weekend thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I do the day trip because that's where my daughter lives. So I'll drive out there on a Friday night, pick her up, and come right back.
Right.
I'll do the 6-7 hours, depending on traffic on the George Washington.
Not too bad.
But that's been the best part of it, and that was a big factor for us moving because my daughter,
Family.
right? So my daughter lives in the Poconos, and then my son lives in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very difficult to get them to come to Florida while I was living in Florida. So the most logical thing was to go up there when we were ready, and we were ready, and I can't say it's all been bad.
You're right.
I had to make some sacrifices in order to be a bigger part of my family's lives because I've been absent for so many years, and it was very challenging. But I had to make that sacrifice, and I feel like, and I'm not like trying to toot my own horn, but it was incredibly selfless because I had an amazing thing going down here. I had the careers all lined up and everything, working at a hospital once I graduated because I was in the nursing program down here, and I had everything all set up, but I had to be there, and being there, I get to see my mom more often, my sister and her kids, so that's the good part of it. The family side of it that is the very good part of it. But then the friends, try to make friends when you're in your 30s. It's not easy.
It's like, where do you go, right?
Yeah. But I think people need to hear that too. There's like, I love the selfless aspect of it, and that's the exact thing that was, popping into my head,
right.
In that exact scenario. And the reason why I wanted to ask you that too is because, my mom just moved from up north to down here, and she's been, kind of having a rough time with the same thing, meeting people, going out, social stuff. And, I just remember when I moved, it just took me a year to get grounded,
Right.
And granted, I was in a kind of a strange place, when I moved to here, but yeah, I just feel like that's so hard for anyone.
It is.
And that if anyone is going through anything like that, they just need to know that it's going to get better, but it's going to take a lot of work. And
It
sometimes,
absolutely does.
the move might be something that you need, the change that you need to completely, change your entire life,
Yeah. I mean, I'm very grateful for the experiences that I've gained through this because, fighting through the challenges has been great. I mean, especially with the relationship with me and my wife.
Right.
You know,
Shout out to Marnie.
Shout out.
The Rock. She holds everything together. The Rock,
Yeah.
the glue, everything. And like in the bio part, I said full-time work. Majority's actually been part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And she called me out on that.
Hey, you gotta have that partner.
Which, and she's been working full-time and she's been holding everything together while because there's been tons of times where I'm like, I gotta study.
Yeah.
I gotta pass this exam.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. It's
I'm
not
in
easy.
that place right now with Kelly.
Yeah, it's tough,
Yeah,
man.
she's studying and she just started.
Yeah.
But she's like it's so into it that she's like, I gotta study. I have to make sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
she's
you
been
have
doing
to.
good.
It's information and it's material that is gonna hold you up in your career.
Yeah.
And if you don't know it, they're gonna call you out on it.
Yeah.
And you're not. You're going to be in a tough position if you start working and you're like, oh well, I didn't really pay attention,
Right.
and that's not going to fly.
Right.
That ain't fucking algebra.
No, it's not.
In high school. Yeah, I mean, Jen went through the same thing with her PT program. We had, I probably just threw them out like 2 or 3 months ago, like literally boxes of note cards, like boxes and boxes. And she used to, when she was doing anatomy and all that stuff, just thick books, boxes of note cards, just all the time studying.
Yeah.
So just get used to it, Chris.
Yeah.
So we'll get ready to wrap it up here. We've been trying to keep the episode short, a little bit lighter, but it's just so good to see you and catch up and all that stuff. And, I wanted to ask you, for my selfish benefits, give me, because you said in the bio, father of four, 4, right?
Yeah, 4.
Yeah, 4. You got 2 new ones.
2 new ones. Yeah.
You know, one's 3 and one's
9
Morgan
months.
is 9 months. Okay.
Yeah, 9.
So I want top 3 tips to being a new father
Ooh.
from Ryan
That's a
B.
good- that's a
For
good
my
question.
own benefit.
You're never right.
That's number 1 or number 3?
That's all 3. No.
That's all 3.
The biggest thing I can say is that you might feel like you're doing it wrong, but you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you can never be fully prepared for every situation. So always keep that in the back of your head. And then
That's just good life advice in general.
Yeah.
Because you always think that it could have went better or
Right.
should have went different.
yeah, and that's why people always say, like, you know, I'm just not ready to have kids yet.
Right.
And I always say, you know, you're never ready.
Never gonna be ready.
It doesn't matter how much money you have, where you
Yeah.
live, what do you have set up. You're never ready.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough. It is. You know, I can't sugarcoat it. It's amazing. I love being a father. You know, when my 3-year-old runs up to me and just wants to cuddle in my arms,
Yeah.
you know, there's nothing better than that. You know
Right
what I
on.
mean? But the other thing I could say is, you know, just be there.
Yeah.
Just be there. That's the biggest part.
Mm-hmm.
Because to be that supportive person, no matter what, is the biggest part of it all. And I think that's the greatest experience of it. You know, just to see that little person like gaining knowledge as they get older and older. You know, it's an amazing part of it. You know, my son now is 14, the oldest.
Yeah.
And you know, he's much smarter than me, according to him.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but he's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
Yeah.
amazing to see that growth, and it's also frightening.
Yeah.
You know, because he's talking about he's going to get his learner's permit soon.
Yeah.
You know, and it's frightening.
Becoming a man.
Yeah. But just to be there, to constantly be there, I think is the biggest part of it.
Right on.
That's fire.
All right, so just to highlight for the listeners, in case you dozed off or drifted away, Ryan said the top 3 tips for new parents are: number 1 is you're not always right. Well, you said you're never right. I'm toning it down a
Or
little
you're
bit.
always wrong.
Oh, you're always wrong.
And then it was you can never be fully prepared
That's
for
solid.
anything and everything that's going to happen.
So
And the
prepare
third-
for that.
Prepare for the unprepared. And then the third tip, be present.
Yeah.
Solid advice.
Fucking awesome.
And then, can I ask a selfish question?
Dude, fire it up, dude. You only get one, though, so make it
Only
count.
one. Okay, so I'm gonna ask like 5 in one. No, I'm just kidding. So this is about fasting.
Yes.
So I've talked about it in the past. We were talking about it
Yes.
before the podcast. So real quick, what are for myself? I want to like get into it. Obviously, I'm gonna start slow with just maybe 24 hours. But what advice would you give not only me but someone who's kind of like just thinking about fasting? What are the benefits, or what are some tips that you can give?
Right. Well, without thinking, because like I know everyone's always like, because I remember listening to Jesse talk about it. He's like,
Yeah.
how could you do that?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's crazy. Why would
Yeah.
you starve yourself? But really, you know, to starve yourself is you don't have the ability to eat. Like there's nothing to eat. You're going to starve. You know what I mean? That's a big difference than fasting. Fasting
Right.
is you're forcing yourself to go without because you don't need it. That's the biggest part, you know, because everyone thinks you need to eat, you need to eat, you need to eat. I mean, you really don't. You have a lot of energy stored in your body that can last a long time. You know, cavemen back in the day would go search for food, and they would go a day without food, and then they would find the food and they would eat it, and then they'd truck on, you know. And fasting's been for years and years. So without that, but without the health benefits, the mental benefits of just being able to achieve something you thought that was unachievable is something that can really help you push forward in your life in many areas. You know what I mean? Because you think this is this feat that there's no way you'd be able to do it because you're so used to eating 3 meals a day, 5, 6 meals a day, some people, you know, and to be able to push through those feelings, and it's mostly mental, to be honest with you. I mean, people can go, you know, Gandhi would go 78 days without eating. You know, he would fast for peace.
Yeah.
You know, his last fast just happened recently, like the anniversary of his last fast. So I had a group online that we did a 24-hour fast for his last fast, which, not even thinking about his all creepy stuff that Gandhi used to do, but we'll just talk about the fasting.
And so you fasted, the longest you said was 5 days, right?
5 days was the longest fast.
And
yes.
just real quick, last question, I promise. What
Let it ride, dude. Let it ride. I'm sure
what
there's
was-
someone out there curious about this kind of stuff.
What was your experience with that 5 days from like the beginning to the end?
Well, I didn't just do 5 days. I didn't was like, oh, let's fast and just did 5 days. I worked up to it. I was
Okay.
doing one meal a day for a while.
Oh, so you kind of
Yeah. So I
okay.
worked up to it. So I was doing like, I would give myself like a 4-hour eating window, and then the rest of the day I didn't
okay.
eat anything. And that's what they say is to work up to that. Do the intermittent fasting where you kind of spread it out. You give yourself, maybe start off with like a 6-hour window where you're going to eat throughout that 6 hours, and
Okay.
then hold off for the other 18 hours or whatever. And then gradually work up to it, and then you can do a 24-hour fast. And there's a lot of information, and especially on how to break the fast, which is really important, because if you break the fast by eating a cheeseburger, you can get yourself sick.
Okay.
You know, so there's certain ways to do it. So I definitely recommend research,
Yeah.
reading. There's fasting.com, which is like this doctor started. There's Reddit groups online that
Yeah, you sent me some of those.
yeah, so there's a lot of good information about it. But when I did the 5-day fast, I worked up to it. I did like a 72-hour fast a month before, and then I did like a keto kind of one meal a day for 2 weeks, and then I just went right into the fast, and I did 5 days. By day 3, those hunger feelings start to go away because they just turn into waves and stuff. But I also didn't do a lot. I didn't work out, you know, which isn't. Some real crazy people that fast all the time, they'll go and do hot yoga during a fast, which is like blows my mind because
That's
like
really
you're
pushing
depleting yourself of a lot of electrolytes doing that. And that's a big thing too. I was also getting blood work at the doctor because for my own health reasons, you know, I had high cholesterol before I started doing keto, which is a whole another conversation. And I got my cholesterol and triglycerides into an acceptable range by just working on my diet. I didn't want to go on medication, you know, doing the intermittent fasting. So when I got into it, by like day 3, the mental stuff goes away, or the physical feelings go away, and then it's all mental. Then you're just breaking through certain walls, you know.
What was that like?
It was awesome, you know, especially the meditation part of it.
Yeah.
You know, because like your head's going crazy. You're thinking about all these different things, and like to slow yourself down in that moment. By day 5, I was like so zen, bro.
Fucking chilled out.
So chilled out, bro.
Just chilled.
But I was also like really thinking about that
Chilled out, but on edge.
Well, I was really thinking about breaking the fast. I was
Yeah.
like, here we go. Because like during the fast, I decided to make myself a bone broth to break the fast. Because like that's what I read is like the best thing to break a fast with is like 2 pints of bone broth. So I made my own bone broth, which was a horrible idea while you're fasting because the entire house smells like this
good.
amazing stew.
Yeah.
And my wife, she was so mad because like the house stunk like stew. I thought it smelled great, but like I guess a musty, meaty smell isn't the best thing to best fragrance for a house. But the last thing I'll say about it is the breaking the fast was probably one of the best feelings I've had in a really long time.
What'd you eat?
I had bone broth. So it was around 8:00. Went to a meeting. I had a tin that I had hot bone broth in, and I just sipped it. Halfway through the meeting, I start getting this feeling, like insane energy. Like I could not sit still. I had to get up. I had to walk around. I had to go outside, and I was just talking to one of my friends, and I was just talking like a mile a minute. I could not. I felt like I was on a drug.
Wow.
But I wasn't, you know, it
Yeah.
was just all the endorphins just like came rushing
Rushing,
back.
yeah.
And, you know, it was one of the best feelings I've had, you know, number one, the accomplishment, you know, being able to just get through that was like an insane amount of accomplishment. And I did that right at the beginning of my last semester of school, because I wanted that to kind of push me right into it and just go. And I actually ended up graduating straight A's with the last semester.
Chris, when are you doing your first fast, dude?
I know, man. I'm about ready to do it right now. Shit.
Dude, you can't go a freaking day without freaking Burger King, dude.
I know, man. It's gonna be tough.
No, yeah.
See, I didn't know about the leading up to it. That's important. So
absolutely,
I
would never recommend someone just do a 24-hour fast.
You don't go cold turkey, dude.
I was about to go cold. Cold turkey, man. I mean, know.
You can.
Well, I'm sure that it's possible, but it's probably not recommended.
I would think it's really difficult.
Yeah.
I would think it's really, and then you kind of set yourself up for failure, and then like you go maybe 16 hours, and then you end up eating something because you can't control it, and you just can't control those cravings and feelings. Yeah. And then you're just like, I'm not going to do this again. Why would I do it? Right. You know what I mean? So like I suggest working up to it so you kind of build that confidence. And that's with anything you do. You know what I mean? You don't.
We sell juice cleanses at the juice bar, and we give a PDF of preparation for like it's like 3. Like you're gonna do a juice cleanse. This is just juice, not food, which is still challenging. But it's for the first like 24 to 48 hours before the juice cleanse, like no red meat, no caffeine, drink lots of water, exercise. All so you got to prepare just and when you're taking the juice, like you're getting a lot of nutrients in there. So fasting, I'm sure is you better prep. To the T for that.
Water. You know the juice shop that I used to hang out at. Yeah. And one day we were just like, let's do a juice fast.
Yeah.
With no preparation whatsoever. Let's do a 10-day juice fast.
That isn't.
I made it to day 6.
Really?
I did. I made it to day 6, but I was miserable the entire time. Because I had no experience. I didn't educate myself on what to expect or, how to do it properly. I just went right into it, and I was just like, "Let's
juice
do this."
Cleanse is easier than a fast, right? You think?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. I probably would think it's about the same.
You think so?
Yeah, because I mean, even though you're getting a little bit of calories and a little bit of nutrients and stuff through the juice, it's still you're just drinking something. Because 90% of a fast is mental. You know what I mean? It's really mental. I mean, you're going to feel the physical effects of, the hunger feelings, or your stomach vibrating because it's empty. But I mean, your body's not starving for nutrients because you're loaded up with nutrients. Yeah. You have all that
going
stuff
off reserves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's important, obviously. You got to do some research about electrolytes because if you don't replenish your electrolytes, you could hurt yourself.
Yeah, and then the coffee I'm gonna have to lean off of because.
Well, I did. The 5-day fast was water and 1 black coffee a day.
Oh, so you could do the coffee.
Yeah. A lot of people are okay. I mean, it depends on who you talk to.
Right. It's one of those things.
Yeah, it's one of those things. But like a black coffee, you're not gonna really get too much. There's no calories really in it. There's no nutrients. But I would drink what they call snake juice.
What's that?
It's basically just like magnesium and sodium in water.
Yeah. That makes
so you
sense.
kind of replenish your electrolytes.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But
snake water, hey? All right, Christian, go ahead and drop that Nimbus cloud. All right, so this episode is brought to you by D Squared Media. Actually, Ryan probably has some experience with Danny and his team, but Danny and his team, shout out to Danny.
What's up,
Square
Danny?
Media. Any businesses needing branding, logo design, web design, print work, t-shirts, whatever you need as far as branding your business goes, they can help you out with that. They're offering 10% off to the listeners of the Everyday Hustle Show. You could save a bunch of money if you want, potentially thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands if you're spending millions.
Yes, sir. That's true.
If you want to check out theeverydayhustleshow.com. It was completely redone and revamped by them.
Great
and
work.
My website as well, which is andrewnyes.com, was done by them too. So you could check those 2 websites out if you want to get a little bit of reference for their work. But Ryan, if you guys don't believe us, maybe Ryan could help chime in a little bit. And Ryan can tell us a little bit about his experience with Danny maybe.
Well, I've never had him build a site for me,
No,
but I know
you
Danny.
know.
Danny's one of
You
the
know.
nicest guys. I've had the pleasure of being in my life, being in his life. known Danny probably 10 years.
Just another honest, hardworking guy out here trying to make it on his own, you know?
Absolutely. Self-made.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal at the end of the day. Self-made hustlers out here.
That's what we do.
So I want to thank you, Ryan, for coming out and spending time with us while you're technically on, I know you're kind of on vacation, family vacation down here. I want to thank you for spending the time.
My
there was
pleasure.
a lot of really good content in here for people to look back on. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, make sure you subscribe. Leave a rating, and really, I'm ripping this off from another podcast, but that's the way the world works.
Yeah.
If you like the podcast and you listen to the podcast and you share it with one person, it's going to make a huge difference. So if you're listening right now and you made it this far into the end of the episode, we're almost at an hour, you need to first pat yourself on the back because you're a friggin' champion.
That's right.
And the second thing you need to do is share this episode or share the podcast with a friend. If our audience is 50 and everyone shares it with one person, we're doubling it. We're at 100.
Yes, sir.
And that would mean the world to us. So thanks for everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week.